One thing I really want people to walk away with from this session today is some tangible things that they can go ahead and implement uh, right away. The challenge is that in most cases, 90% of people that are in a group that come to a session don't actually do it, and it's 10% that will actually make some sort of action plan towards bettering their marketing when it comes to social. And out of that 10%, it's really about three that execute on the long term. 10% might execute for the first month or two or three and then drop off. But it's the 3% that continue on, and that's when they really start to see results. This is like, I always talk about the long game because that's the thing that determines if you're going to be around 10 years from now versus 2 years from now, and then we never hear about you again. So I'm all about playing the long game, and a lot of social has to do with that. We're definitely in the brand building business. A lot of people get that mixed up with sales business, which are two separate things. So we're going to be focusing on building brand, because brand will always outlast sales. Sales is great to have in the funnel, and in a lot of ways is great and needed to keep your business going. But let's make sure you're around, not just for the short term, but for the long term as well. So the framework that I like to set up for these events is going around the room. We've had a chance to get everybody to introduce themselves, and now I really want to begin to dive in deep. So I've asked you guys to come up with some questions, and I really enjoy the Q&A part of these events because it allows us to just go straight to your current situation. Everybody here is likely going to be in a different situation, and that's why we like to hear the background, so it gives us an idea of where the best value that we can provide will be. So I'm actually just going to pick and choose, and we'll go around the room, and we'll just kind of get everybody a chance to ask one question. We'll go around the room, and then we'll come back. So depending on how many times we go around the room with the time that we get, I always love actually when we do have a smaller crowd, because it just gives you more opportunities to ask more questions. You might get some more ideas based on what other people ask as well, and then you're like, oh, I should have asked that. Well, now I have a chance to. So yeah, I've had 16 people show up to these events. I've had one person show up to this event. To me, it doesn't really matter. I'm always concerned about the end consumer and what value they're going to get from it. So for a case in point, I had one event where one lady showed up and she's like, oh, I guess that's not really good for you, eh? And I said, no, it's great, because now we have an hour and a half to really dig deep into your business and to see, what changes can be made to really help you get to the next level. And it was awesome because she was kind of fronting a little bit for the first, I want to say 45 minutes. And it was after the first 45 minutes that she really opened up about where she was actually at. And then I was able to provide her with real value based on her just telling the truth about her actual situation. So that stuff gets me pumped up. So let's get right into it. Let's start with Cheryl.
Okay, so my question really ties in around transitioning from the corporate world. So Aaron alluded to my past at BlackBerry, and in my corporate experience, I worked in very male-dominated industries. And so for me, I really had to prove myself and my intelligence and my worth for being there and being in the room every day. And so you create this bit of a persona that is this corporate individual, always wearing a suit, always polished, always put together. And it's not that I don't love those things, but that's not all of who I am. It's a component of who I am. So when I transitioned into having my own business, I've really struggled in the fact that I said I've never had to sell myself before. And I had to start sharing and connecting in a different way, because what I was doing was really very corporate based. It was how I would speak to a stakeholder. It was how I would share to, project leads that were doing things. It was how I would sell a business case. And that didn't resonate. And so it was a really big challenge for me. And it's only actually been in just this year, I would say, especially, I rebranded last year, a year ago, January, and committed to sharing more of me, but I still struggled with it because I struggled with what will resonate, especially given the fact that the people that I work with in a coaching, one-on-one coaching, or even a group coaching scenario, it's very personal. They have to be able to connect with you and they have to trust with you because, like you said, Josh, it took that lady 45 minutes to be able to open up to you and be honest and share her core. Same when I go in and work with a business and, people are kind of handing me their baby. And so they really need to trust you. So what are suggestions that you can share on really how, for the work that I do, to be able to share in a way that's really authentic and allows people to connect with me?
Great question. I love this because in so many ways, this really leans into the fear that so many people have about authenticity and like, where is the line with that? There's so many scenarios where it's like, okay, well, how much do I actually mix, who I am with my business? And a big topic is around personal brand and, is that a thing? Does that need to be involved in my business? I thought that business was just something that, your business is the brand and, you're just kind of behind it. People don't need to know about me, but I want them to know about what I do. And the reality is, especially in 2020, it's the actual opposite. People are drawn in by you, and then you are the funnel that brings them into the business. So I'm actually encouraging people to be more authentic and share more of themselves. This is a really interesting thing too when it comes to content marketing, because you never know what will stick out to somebody in regards to, it could be the fact that you have a huge obsession with apples.
Flamingos. It's flamingos.
There you go. You might have a strange obsession with flamingos, which is awesome. Or, just like a quirk or something that really just resonates with you. And the reality is, like, you just don't know what will resonate with somebody. So I just encourage you, Cheryl, like, just share as much as you possibly can and test. Like when people are saying, I don't know what to put out on social media, and they're like, should I stick to like one specific thing? And I'm like, just put out content in quantity. Quantity is what's going to lead you to the quality content, because when you test different things and you test and you put different things out, then over time you can look at the data, the real data that says, okay, this is what resonates with my audience. And that's how you build that community. Then that quantity is what's going to lead you to the quality content that you're looking for. But you'll never know that if you don't go all in on quantity first. And the goal is to find both quantity and quality side by side. So yeah. I would say, just do not be afraid to share, your love for flamingos. Like I love the post I saw, like you were in your wedding dress. And I just thought that was so cool, because it's like, who does that? But that's the point.
That's
right?
Me, like,
how are we separating ourselves from other people? And it's what makes us that does it. It's just the question of how much of that are you willing to share with others?
I think for me, the struggle was, with corporate, you have to be so professional all the time. You have to be on all the time. And I am an incredibly quirky, funny person. Like, I wore my wedding dress to a training session because it was on my anniversary and that was the best day of my life. and I can still fit in it, so I wore it. And and so it's just funny things like that. Or I give like helium fueled pep talks to my husband's ball team, like right before they go out on the field and stuff like that. Like I do silly things. And I was afraid of whether if I shared those components of me, people would then say, well, she's actually not intelligent or she's not capable because she is who she is. Yet the people that I work with, and even in my corporate life, it was me that they connected with. So what I'm doing in the month of June is, and I'd love your opinion on this from everyone, is I've been very protective of my children. I have not shared much about my children on social media. I have a single mom, raised them both. My daughter turns 18 next week. My son's going to be 23 in August. And so now that she's going to be 18, she's like, yeah, share about me, don't care. And so I'm actually doing an Instagram takeover of my own business page for June. And I'm just talking about me. I'm sharing about my kids, about my mom, about my love of the county and Prince Eddie's Brewing. And, that my love of flamingos and, kayaking, all those things. And so for the month, I'm really just sharing about me. It's not about my business. So it's kind of a bit of a testing thing to see too how people resonate with me. I've become much more open and sharing about things. So that's kind of what I'm doing for that. So I'd love your thoughts on it.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, like I love that. I think that's so cool that you're willing to do that, and that like it sounds like it's going to be really really fun, and I'm really interested to like see how that goes. So I'd love to have a conversation like with you like once you do that, and
Yeah,
to see
for sure.
what the results were for you. But I think that is incredible. Like you talked about, coming from a corporate background and everything, like the framework in corporate is very much so one way. Like there's only one way to act, there's only one way to be. But the beautiful thing about your situation is that you're an entrepreneur, so the framework is now whatever you want it to be. And I the freedom of that alone I think is super gratifying. And I think at the end of the day, like people do business with people. Like they don't do business with businesses, right? Like it's the actual people that close the deal, like build the relationship. And I think you can't discount that ever. Like that's the thing that drives ROI. And again, it's just that thing that separates you from the rest. Is showing those inner parts of you. You never know what people will connect with you on. I've like case in point, there's so many different businesses that I've had the pleasure of either working for or doing business with, not because necessarily of OSM, but it's because I created a framework where people can just come on and actually just tell their story and talk about what they're up to, which is something I would totally encourage anybody. This is for everybody here, by the way, like creating a community where people can talk about themselves, is like the number one strategy. If like cold calling, like funnels, like if you're struggling in that area, create a framework where it's easy to reach out to people and say like, hey, I have this show or I have this podcast or I'm doing this, is this something that you'd be interested in being a part of? It's so interesting. Like I'll give you a case in point. A friend of mine, they have a entity called Blog BOQ, and it's like a news media Instagram page, over 3,000 followers, and they talk about all things Bay of Quinte that's going on in the area. That for them is a gateway that leads to Lareau Communications, which is their sister company, where they do video production. So they actually use Blog BOQ as a way to build the relationship before they go in with the ask. And then so it makes every sale for them is a warm lead because they built that relationship up front through Blog BOQ. So I mean, that is, I think, one of the number one strategies. If you want to turn a cold relationship into a warm one, find a way to provide the end client value and then build on that relationship to then lead to the thing that you want to happen out of that relationship.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks.
And the thing that I was thinking of while you were talking, Cheryl, was, and this is a bit riffy because it literally just came to me right when you finished, was two things. The first one was there's a guy named Grant Cardone who's an absolute, I'd say he's a crazy person out of the United States. I don't know if anyone here has heard of Grant Cardone. He's crazy. I don't know if you can duplicate that guy. And some of the stuff that he does, you're like, oh, I wish I could do that. But you couldn't. You can't do what he does because he's who he is. But one thing that he said that I really appreciated was one of the bits of advice he gave in one of the talks that I saw online is he said, you get yourself some haters. If you don't have haters, you're not making a difference. It's true. Like, it's going to be polarizing. And what that made me think of was that I think the only mistake in brand development that anyone can make, and that includes not just brand development, but your actual advertising and your marketing, the only mistake you can make is dishonesty. That's the only thing that you can do wrong. If you're yourself and a complete weirdo, there is a niche of people, and it could be a large niche or a small one, who will resonate with that, and another niche that will be like, weirdo, right? And then they'll write you nasty comments on your YouTube channel and stuff like that. And if you're especially clever, you turn all of those hate comments into opportunities to make yourself look good to the people who admire and like the stuff that you do. So it's kind of an encouragement and it's a chance for you to just let your shoulders down and be like, oh, okay, it's totally cool. Yeah, 100%. If you reveal your love of flamingos, which you did today, and I'm like, flamingos? Wow, I don't think I've ever heard anyone fascinated with flamingos. I can kind of understand why. They're pretty cool. But there's a group of people who, again, they're going to think that's just strange, but I guarantee you they'll remember that strange lady who liked the flamingos. And then there's another group of people that'll go, flamingos? Cool. Yeah, no, I mean, why flamingos? And they'll start to be interested and ask questions, and they'll engage with your posts, and they'll remember you. So either way, you've pretty much done it. So just an encouragement. Kudos for picking a direction that was kind of bold and going for it. That's awesome.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Love it. Love it. Let's keep it going here. Let's go to Michael.
Okay, so we're unmuted. All right. So what was the question? I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
It's an opportunity to ask your question.
So our question. So truthfully, my focus on marketing has been hit and miss because we are 100% a referral business. So I'm really excited about today because, everybody on this call are very similarly minded in business as a point of view from a consulting point of view. I think that's fair to say. Business coach is definitely consulting, right? One Wild Voice, I'm very excited about you're literally consulting people through their marketing services, right? And offering that on a continual basis. And of course, Josh, you're like great leadership. Like you've just given great leadership for a long period of time. And I can see that'll be for decades to come. Madeline, I don't know you as well, but if you're connected with Josh, you're in a good place. Okay. So my question, I guess, would be, and actually what you mentioned, Josh, about being you, and you've told me this before too, I'm a grandfather now. I have 8 grandchildren, and I post a lot of pictures of me and the kids just fooling around in the backyard. And I believe that actually has been working. I've been tracking that sort of thing, just sort of listening to what people say when I finally meet them. And, the ones who divulge that they did creep me on social media, they say things like, I can tell you're happily married. I can tell that you've got children. I can tell that you've got grandchildren. It's like it's no surprise to them. So it almost makes them feel comfortable with the fact that we are a family man. That's why it's One Family Financial. And truthfully, not that we're leveraging that, but I love it, Josh, how you keep saying, just be real, right? So, and we do business with people. And I'm a people, you know, as Justin Trudeau would say, I'm a people. So what that means is when I'm an entrepreneur, I can't extract myself from what I do to the point where I'd be somebody else. It's literally impossible. I've been in situations where I worked for people and they tried to make me do things that I really couldn't do to my core. You know, that immediately an exit strategy begins. So if you did that in business, you would literally dissolve your business somehow, some way. It would not work. It has to be you. So I'm confident in the fact that, you know, I'm like this morning, I was on the bike with William and I just posted a little video of me and William on the bike. Nobody needs to know why or what or who or what we're doing. We're just laughing and having a good time, right? And just being me. And I'm glad that you're kind of pointing us in the direction that you could do that and just do that on a continual basis. Because honestly, that's my goal, is to have time freedom to spend with my family. And that's my goal for every one of my clients, is to offer them time freedom, right? I think that every entrepreneur wants that. So that's not a question, is it?
Yeah, is there something that, like, is there something off of that I can help with, or?
Okay, yeah. So we are struggling with what platforms to adhere to. So, and clearly I'm active on Facebook. Instagram I find difficult to keep pace with. It's so fast moving. Is there a way that, or what would you suggest would be the best platform to use, I guess, moving forward?
So you're using Facebook a lot, Instagram somewhat?
Correct.
Gotcha. So first and foremost, I would use both. Like, I'm always a fan of diversifying when it comes to just about everything business related, and especially like what platforms you're on. I think that in most cases, more than one platform will work for a business. Not always, but in most cases, I do believe that more than one platform will work. And the other reason too is diversifying, and same thing with investments, and you'll be very familiar with this, Michael, is because, you know, if one thing goes away for whatever reason, you have something else. And the reality is we just don't know, you know, how long is Instagram going to be around for? You know, how long is Facebook going to be around for? There's so many social platforms that have come and gone over the year. Not to say that they're going anywhere anytime soon. I don't believe that. But at the same time, you have to play your cards as if you don't know when or, you know, where it's going to happen. And two, then the second part is understanding your audience. So, you know, what platforms are your audience on? Like, I always say to people, like, I'm unemotional about the platform. I'm actually more concerned about the end consumer on that platform. So if the end consumer on Facebook can be a potential client, then you need to be on Facebook. If the end consumer that could be a potential client is on Instagram, then you need to be on Instagram. Same thing with LinkedIn, same thing with Twitter, same thing with TikTok. And I believe that there's probably opportunity to diversify maybe within all of those platforms that I just mentioned for you specifically. But yeah, I would say definitely diversifying is a good way to go to make it easy for you, Michael, and maybe something tangible that you can walk away with from today. And maybe you're doing this already. If you post from Instagram, but your Instagram page is linked up to your Facebook page, your business page, you can just post from one and automatically have it shared to the other. So you're just posting one. You don't have to worry about going to each platform to post the same thing.
Yeah, we are doing that already. And when you mentioned LinkedIn, it reminded me now Bonnie is doing the LinkedIn profile. So she's sort of because we have a team, we're kind of like spread out, and Tia is very active on Instagram. So I find that we're kind of popping up in multiple places and multiple spots, right? So maybe what we need to do is get a hashtag One Family Financial or something like that to tie them all together. Is that a good idea?
Well, I think you have to be contextual to the platform. So for example, like what's going to work for you on Instagram, it may be a different strategy for what's going to work with you on LinkedIn. So I always say that you have to think about like the audience that's on those platforms and then make content for that audience. So LinkedIn, it might be a different angle than Instagram or Facebook, for example. So always think about the end consumer and you know, just the untold nuances of that platform.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, LinkedIn, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's definitely a professional oriented, like it seems like I'm talking to businesses or business owners or employee or decision makers in businesses. So that makes sense for sure. Facebook is basically all over the place. Same with Instagram. I find that Instagram, definitely the end consumer for sure, would be there. Now, what about Twitter? I've never had a Twitter account. Is that even something that you guys are using regularly, or?
Yeah, Twitter is a good option as well. Like Twitter is, and I always look at too, like the platform that you're on too, like looking at you know, how that platform is used. Like there's a lot of people on Twitter that love it because like it's, you know, you have 140 characters or whatnot to use, and you got to be strategic. But it's a lot of writing, and some people they love putting out content that way. They love to write, and it's a great platform for that. Us personally, we're going all in on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok. Those platforms just seem to resonate really well for us and our audience. But yeah, definitely. I mean, Twitter is a place that you can go to as well, and just seeing like and testing it out. Like I'm not opposed to testing out different platforms to see, okay, what is the response to what I'm putting out here, and just testing different options, similar to how, you know, you're testing things with LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook right now.
Okay, so I don't want to dominate this discussion, but you directed me to a specific question. One of the things, we get very little response to what gets posted. And I believe that is mainly because anything posted direct to personal finance seems private, so they wouldn't respond on a public platform, you see. So while I see that it is important to put all this content out there and make sure everybody were available, you know, and so on, there's very little response.
Yeah, so, I think you have to make it a framework where it's maybe, and I know there's a lot of rules like around your industry, what you can, what you can't put up. I think Instagram stories actually might be a great spot for you to ask questions, more so generic. Like, so for example, like instead of saying, you know, do you have an emergency fund? Yes or no? How about the question, framing it like, do you think having an emergency fund is important? Yes or no? And then getting responses from that. So you're not asking the direct question, do you have an emergency fund? But you're more so asking like, is this something that's important from your perspective? And then seeing what feedback you get from that. I think Instagram stories is a great space for you to get feedback and then repost that feedback. So whatever people give you an answer, post that answer back to your story to show people on your page like what was said, you know, what was the percentage of people that thought it was important versus not, that type of thing to create engagement. And then also, I think the one thing that people really underestimate with Facebook, like Instagram, we'll just pick on Instagram, is the engagement side of it. And this will go for like pretty much anybody here. Like, it's one thing to post, but if you actually want to grow your following, you want to grow the engagement, the people that are actually interacting with you, like the engagement piece, and I'm going to break that down because it could be very vague for some, but I mean like commenting on other people's stuff, asking questions to your followers, DMing people, like those things are really is what's going to help take your page to the next level. People find it's pretty obvious mostly that they're not really apt to engage. If you're the account that people comment on your stuff, you never respond, or you just like it and don't respond. Like, if somebody comments on your stuff, comment back, provide value to them just the way that they did to you by commenting on your stuff. Actively look for people that you enjoy the content that they're putting out. They are an ideal client or target audience, and comment on their stuff. Begin the relationship. Social media is all about relationship. I can't count how many people I've created a relationship with through social, and a lot of these people, I've never met them in person. Who knows if I ever will, hopefully, but like that's where a lot of relationships have started for me, is in an online space. So don't discount the engagement piece of your page.
All right.
I
Thank
think
you.
that was a huge learning for me, was because my other main platform, I'm on Facebook, but my other main platform is LinkedIn, which is really the corporate side again, and sharing the value of what I do for, leadership coaching or for working with your team and in your business. And I was treating my Instagram page the same way. And so it was a sales page. It wasn't that relationship building. And so I'm really treating it differently now, in the fact that I just get to be social with people and just go in there to connect with people and share with people with nothing beyond building relationships. And it makes it fun. It doesn't make it seem as daunting, because I didn't grow up in the Instagram, age. And I mean, TikTok scares the crap out of me. So
Agreed. Agreed.
It's
not
interesting
complicated as you think.
I'll speak to that quickly too, Cheryl. I'm so glad you brought that up, because and this is a funny thing actually, because right now is actually the best time to be on TikTok. And the reason why is because there's not enough people on TikTok as there is content. Therefore, more people are going to see your stuff than not. Like, TikTok definitely is at the top of this list, but TikTok and LinkedIn are somewhat similar in the fact that it's one of the only platforms where you can post something and literally overnight, like hundreds of people, thousands of people that you've never met, don't know anything about you, will see your content just based on the lack of people using the platform actively versus the amount of content that's being pushed out. So, and like for some of you that were maybe like got on the Instagram game early, like it was a lot easier back then on Instagram to get the likes, to get the followers, because the audience wasn't there. There wasn't enough people there yet. And it's the exact same thing with TikTok right now. I wouldn't ignore TikTok just because it's a new way of communicating. So that's the way you have to think about it. Like, TikTok might be a common way that people communicate 5 years from now. So I always look at, okay, well, what's resonating? How are people communicating? And then using that as a decision-making factor on what platform I get on, not the content itself that is being put out. Because I had a conversation with one lady and she was like, listen, I got on TikTok, I spent probably an hour on there, and then I got off because I saw a whole bunch of stupid stuff and like nothing interested me. And I said, okay, so basically what you're telling me is that you went on TikTok for an hour, saw a bunch of stuff you didn't like, and then decided to get off. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, so you might have missed the boat on this, because if you go on TikTok, you have to first of all, start by following people that are doing things that you're interested in. Because it's TikTok's just going to show you whatever. So it might just, show you the teenage guy doing whatever, the girl doing whatever. Like, actually intentionally follow an account that talks about something that you care about. Follow them for a week. Just observe what they do. And then use that as a way to then start making your own content on the platform. But that's one way to get into TikTok, is to just go follow people that you care about, the stuff that they're doing, just to get a sense for how they're communicating. Because I guarantee you 5 years from now, that communication style is going to be something that is required in business for acquisition.
Okay, challenge accepted.
You could make the case as well that 5 years from now, TikTok could be absolutely nothing, but conversely, it could be everything. And so TikTok could already be overcome by something else in that time frame. But I think the encouragement, and I did this when I first came up with the idea of having a business at all. I didn't even know what it was. I just had a name for it and kind of an idea of roughly what I wanted to do. The first thing I did was every social media and sort of interactive platform I could think of, I created an account with that name. So it's funny because as you're saying this, I'm a bit convicted, because I realized, I've heard about TikTok, but I haven't even thought to go and register One Wild Voice TikTok. But I should have. So I'm currently downloading the app right now. But I'm kind of in the same boat, except that I'm not really doing a whole lot of social media, which is actually where my question was going to go to you, Josh, which was, and it was actually really kind of in keeping with what Cheryl was talking about, with putting, personality on the business page and juxtaposing LinkedIn to Instagram and how they're kind of different. I guess Instagram especially. I have a One Wild Voice Instagram, and I have my own personal Aaron Cromwell Instagram. But I'm actually thinking to myself, like, is that a wise strategy? I know people have debated this before, but what are your thoughts on that? Having separated social media accounts for your business persona versus your again regular persona. I have ideas about this, but I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, for me, it's all about intent. So is your intention to have, like, if your intention is to have a page, separate from your business, where you can just, maybe you just have your friends as followers, you want a very small community, you can share pictures of your kids or whatnot, maybe that's the reason that you want it. And then you want to keep your business page separate. There's some people out there, like, I'm sure we've all heard of Gary Vee, where his Gary Vee page is his personal brand, and then VaynerMedia is his business, but his personal brand has like millions of followers, and his business page only has like hundreds of thousands of followers. So for me, it's all about intent and what are you trying to build? Like, do you just want a safe space where you can just post personal content for you and your friends, or are you trying to build a personal brand? Like, what is it? I don't think there's a wrong answer. As far as like having two pages versus one, for me, it's all about intent. Sorry, go ahead and unmute yourself, Aaron, so we can hear what you're saying.
Thank you. I was just going to say cool. And then I was going to ask, is it okay if I ask another question? Am I cutting someone off here?
Go for it.
So I'm fairly new at this, and actually, as I said before, I have a full-time job, so it's not like I have a ton of time to allocate to my business. The fact that I can say that it's a business is really from opportunity. It just sort of came. I didn't necessarily have to push too hard to get my first couple of clients, and I'm certainly not pushing to sell more clients right now. In fact, I'm having to turn away opportunities at the moment because I can't. Shouldn't say I can't. I have strategically decided not to for the moment, strategically and personally, actually. But my point is this: is that I'm cognizant as I'm getting ready for what I would call the full launch of my business, whereas, you know, I eventually will step away from my full-time job. I've told them that. I've actually even given them a timeline. I still have to be getting these things ready. And so as I look at my goals, I've started a habit of every morning just looking at my goals daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, right? Like just looking at them and seeing them, right? So I'm developing this habit because I want to kind of know what I have to expect, because I am challenged greatly in time management. That's actually the reason I started doing it, was because I figure if I start doing that, I will better prioritize my time. I have to, by the time I launch, have my social media and my website and all of these things going. Like they have to be ready. The second I hand out that first business card to someone whom I've never met, they need to be ready to just go on. The second I start, you know, sort of really getting out there, I need to have at least something. It doesn't need to have a ton on it. It just needs to be ready. I'm thinking about content creation. I know this is a long-winded question. I'm thinking about content creation, and the rubber meeting the road with this question is this: how much time? Like that's kind of the issue. I'm thinking about creating content so that everyone understands something about me. I have been slow at everything I've ever done. The thing that will take you 2 weeks to do, I will spend a month on. And it's not intentional. I'm not trying to. I really mean the best. But I am slow. I'm slow at everything. Michael knows it because he knows me. But I'm slow. And that carries on to everything. And the thing that concerns me, you talk about quantity of content. No, not yet. The thing that concerns me is that in order to create the content that I need to be putting out in order to make my social media marketing effective, I feel like that time commitment's not going to be sufficient. I'm not going to be able to produce it quickly enough. Can you speak to that? Like someone like myself, because I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm sure I'm not the only one that you've spoken to like that. How would you encourage me to go about this in a way that's not going to suck the life out of me trying to pull it off? Because I recognize the importance of it and the priority of it. It's daunting to me. It's like looking at a mountain. So.
That's a great question, Aaron. I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, it's like the number one challenge for a lot of people is like, you know, like the time to create content, and also like thinking about like what should I actually put out. My response to that is always, first of all, self-awareness. So like understanding like what are you comfortable in, and like what is something that is almost natural for you to do. For some people, nothing is natural, and you really have to get in a place of uncomfort to even get in a space where you can create content. But for people that do have just natural tendencies to fit in certain areas of comfort, like this is comfortable for me. So like I take a look at like what you do, and I think, okay, relationships, like that is something that is so natural for you as a human being to do, is cultivating relationships. So how do you use that strength as a way to create content? So I'm going to tell you what works for me, because I'm also a relationship person, and maybe this is something that you can use or not. But I play to my strengths. I love building relationships, so that's why I started Shop Talk Quinny. That's why I do interviews with business owners on my page. Not only is the content really, really easy to come by, because it's just like I'm scheduling a sales call, except it's an interview. And I'm interviewing that business, and then I record it. So now I have the bites from the interview, and I just chop it up. So I don't have to think about the content anymore. And it's like, it's so funny. Like some people think like starting a podcast or being on a podcast is so daunting. It's actually the easiest thing in the world. Like all you have to do is use a platform like this. You know, every classic interview, I think there's like maybe 8 questions that you ask. You know, it's super simple. You know, like, you know, who are you? What did you do? How did you get into it? Like, you know, it's easy, right? And then you just take that content and chop it up. And if you don't know how to do that, like finding somebody that you can work with that knows how to do it. But like there's so many like self-help on how to chop that up. But the point being is that I don't have to think about it. The content's there. I just asked the questions and really just got the response. And that's what created the content. So I no longer have to think about what am I going to put out. I have the content. I just need to chop it up and whatever resonates with me within that content. That's what I put out. So case in point, and like Aaron, like you could also do like Instagram lives, recording Instagram lives. That I think too is an untapped area that I'm seeing a lot more people getting into since quarantine started, which is where you just hop on a live and then you schedule it with somebody to go on the live with you. You have them come on, and then once you're done recording, it gives you the option to share that to your story. And I think you can also download it as well and reshare it as a post. So like that too is a way that it's easy content. You could be on there for 10 minutes with that person, get the footage, chop it up, share it. You don't even have to chop it up if it's 10 minutes, just share it as is, and that's content. So I think there's a lot of different ways that you can do that, but the basis and the foundation of that is just using a strength that you're already naturally good at and then making it work for your content strategy.
No, that's rich. That's rich. I think just sort of to further the point too, I actually understand. I understand the actual mechanics of even like video editing. I actually can do that. I'm not great at it. I'm fairly new at it. I can. Obviously, audio editing is not a problem. I have a voice booth right there behind this computer where I can record voiceover that is broadcast quality. So, and I'm familiar with editing and all those things. That's actually part of my business is voiceover. But even so, this probably speaks to the question that, Michael, you asked earlier when you talked about like, well, which platforms, right? And your answer to that, Josh, was, yeah, be as diverse as you can. I guess, I think I kind of know the answer to this question, but I'm still going to ask it because it might be valuable to hear you talk about it. If I recognize those limitations of my time, because it really is a limitation, how do I prioritize, number one, what content that I'm putting out, and number two, what platform that I'm putting it out on? So the question is kind of twofold. It's, yeah, I mean, I think actually I have the answer to the first one. You talked about cultivating content based on your strengths. I think I got that. I think it's more so thinking about your knowledge of the platforms. And maybe this is a personal opinion of yours that I'm asking is what platforms, if I had to only choose three, when you look at, say, a solopreneur or someone who's in a field like mine in creative services, where should I be? Should I be aiming towards those newer ones? How should I? Yeah, I'll take any advice you got here.
Yeah. My opinion, I would go all in on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn, because naturally the end consumer and the target audience that you have is there. I think that's just natural. And I think with your position, like you would be mostly communicating with the business owner. That's the platform they live on. So I think that's just natural. Instagram, I think the creative side of what you do will really resonate on that platform. Therefore, I'm suggesting that. And Facebook, sheer data, it is the biggest platform as far as users that use the platform. There's not even a close second to how many users are on that platform. So with that being said, my opinion, those are the three that I would go all in on if I did choose three.
Thank you guys for bearing with me while I dug into that. Thank you very much, Josh. Very helpful, valuable.
Oh, that's very cool. Very cool. Let's keep going here. Let's go back to Cheryl.
Okay, so Aaron, I appreciate you asking those questions because it helps me too. So, and like, I'm happy to have a conversation with you offline about some time management tricks and stuff. It's kind of what I've trained on and done for 20 years. So happy to just have a conversation with you about, areas that you struggle and, give you some of my insights and things that have
Love it. Let's
So,
set it up. I'll connect with you after.
yeah, for sure.
Love it.
So Josh, here's my question, and this is going to show my generation. And first of all, when you say about, exploring TikTok, my daughter has very strictly told me not to go on TikTok because she's like, do not. My friends are on there. But maybe it's because I do that whoa thing all the time when I'm like around her, and it's so fun.
Do you mean like Joey Lawrence whoa, or what kind of whoa are you talking about?
It's the thing at the end where they're like, yeah, ending a conversation. That's what I do to her. And she's gonna be 18 next week, right? Like, she's just mortified by me, but that's what we do when we have them. So, but my question is Instagram Live. I go and speak on stages in front of 500 people, and I love it. You put Instagram Live up in front of me and I choke. So I have hidden from it. And I need to not do it. And I kind of, for a little bit, I'll show up there and I'll do some stuff, and then I get off and I'm like, but I really want to leverage it because I think it's a really great way for me to be able to share, my story, share what I'm passionate about, share, all the things that have helped me and how I work with people, and just information in general, because I love having conversations with people and genuinely just sharing to help them. How can I leverage when you talk about, the Instagram Lives? I don't know how to, have someone tie in, but I love the idea of that, for it to be able to be a conversation, because then the spotlight's not on me. Yet I'm perfectly fine with a spotlight being on me on a stage in front of 500 people. So.
No, absolutely, Cheryl. I think you answered your own question. That's exactly what I would suggest, is to have a guest come on the live with you, and then ask that guest questions around, the thing that you want, the value that you want the end consumer on your platform to see. I always talk about baby steps too, and like, what are some ways to work up to that? So case in point, like I think I've seen where you've recorded some videos, like pre-recorded. And I know a lot of people that struggle with lives usually do well in the area of pre-recording something because they have time to finesse it. They can do as many takes as they want, yada, 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 right? So the other thing too, and this is the value, this is the value piece with lives, is that when you go live, a push notification goes to your followers that tells them that you're going live. So one strategy that I've used is taking a video that you've pre-recorded and then setting up your phone or whatnot to, like, look at your iPad or look at your laptop, go live, and then just have that video play. So then the push notification goes to your audience. Then they see that pre-recorded video. You're still going live. It's just pre-recorded. See, makes sense? So like, that's another way to go live without the additional pressure of it being, okay, I have to come up with something on the spot, or I don't get a second chance to do a take. You can do the pre-record as well. That's a baby step potentially to get to the interview side. Once you get, like, you're more comfortable with that, you see that people are joining the lives. And the other value piece I'm going to add there as well is you don't have to wait for other people to get on the live before you start talking necessarily, because always remember, you can share that live once it's finished. So get on the live. Doesn't matter if people are there yet. Start talking. And as people trickle in, you can reiterate what it is that you've talked about. But just remember, you have that option to share the story after the fact. So people are going to see it regardless. And they get that push notification.
Is there a way to draw? So typically my current following, or my past following, I'm growing it now, so there's people that are starting to engage more. They wouldn't typically join on a live. how is there a way to be able to draw following when you're on a live that isn't just associated to your liked followers, or no?
Yeah, no, I think that goes with so the one thing that comes to mind right off the bat is collaboration. So for example, like if you're doing a live about something that you believe would bring value to somebody else's audience, like I think about community partners like Bay of Quinte, like they have a page, or Quinte Young Professionals, or Quinte Home Builders, or Quinte Economic Development, or Belleville Chamber of Commerce. Like, so collaborating with them and saying, hey, I'm doing a live on this topic and I'm interviewing somebody. Can you push that out to your audience, or just put a post saying that, hey, I'm doing a live at this date. We're going to talk about X, and then just tagging the community partner in that. They have an audience and they're always looking for content to share as well. So that's one way I would suggest for getting it to people that are not just within your immediate audience, but also people with outside of that. Collaboration.
Awesome. That's helpful. Thanks.
All right, let's keep it going here. Let's go back to Michael, and or actually let's go to Gerald. Garrett.
Okay, unmuted.
Hey guys, I'm quite content with just listening to everything you guys are saying. It's all gold here so far. I'm really new to this. I've had multiple jobs in the past, so starting two businesses is daunting to me and scary, and I'm just trying to learn a bunch of stuff yet. And talking to you guys seem like you're the veterans of this, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what to ask, but
is there anything like that that you need help with, as far as like even like getting started, or presence, platform, content? Like you said, you have a couple of different businesses.
Well, so yeah, I have Primerica with One Fan Financial. So, and then I have my own organizing business that I started a Facebook business page with, which a lot of it for me needs to be more self-discipline and definitely better time management with everything I'm doing. And definitely some confidence building and being willing to share and post without worrying how it's going to affect others. And honestly, like, I'm not like, I love technology, but I don't know how to use it. So even with like Facebook, like I hardly know much about that because they keep changing it. And then with Instagram, I'm like almost scared to even try to use, even though I created an account, and that's it. So I want to use these things to benefit me, and I don't know, I'm just not putting the time into it yet. So
one thing that Garrett said, of being afraid about what people would think about the content, I think maybe we could talk about that a little bit, because I think that's a huge milestone that everyone faces, really.
Well, let's get specific. Like, what type? Like, why are you afraid of how people are going to react to your content?
I'm sort of a people pleaser. I don't like confrontation. I quite run away from that. And a while back, like months and months ago, I did do a post about like finances and stuff. And I just saw comments underneath it, and it was a civil argument, like just people having opinions of certain things. I'm like, oh, I don't want to start a fight. Like, these are both of my friends. I don't want anything to really, which is just kind of a lame excuse, I think. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
There was opposition, obviously, to something that you put out that you believe in. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Great. So I'm going to start with this, Garrett, like that. And I'm so glad you brought this up because I think this is going to bring value to like everybody in the room. Controversy against something that you've put out is great. I want you to start thinking of that like positively, and I want you to start thinking of that as an opportunity. Because what you just told me in a nutshell is like now you have the opportunity to say, great, I'm glad that you stated your opinion in opposition to mine on my page. Let's have a conversation about it, and then invite them on. Like again, I'm going to go back to starting a podcast. I just think it's so new and so cool in business, especially around here. Not a lot of people are doing it, but it's such a gateway drug to relationship. I'm telling you, you got to get on it. Just like, then that's a way that you can say, you know what, I'm so interested and intrigued by your comment. Come on my podcast and let's have a conversation about it, and just chat about like your opinion to what I've said, and let's just have a conversation, and then record that and share it, right? And it comes back to like, if you're good at what you do and you know your stuff, like you're gonna have no issues with that because you're gonna do that in the field regardless, right? You're going to bump into people that have opposition to some of the things that you're saying. You're going to have to deal with that regardless of whether you post it on Facebook or you're sitting in somebody's kitchen giving them financial advice. You're almost always going to, find yourself in that position no matter how you're going about it. So I would use that as an opportunity to say, hey, let's further this conversation. I like that you commented. I liked that you weren't afraid to share your opinion. Let's dig a little deeper into that. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to record our conversation so I can share it with other people. I think there's a lot of value that might come out of it for my audience.
100%, Josh. And honestly, that would probably diffuse any illegitimate offense, let's call it. I don't want to use the word trolls, but you know what I mean. So, anybody who has an actual question about what you're posting is going to be willing to take it further. Yeah, that's a great defense mechanism. It's almost like a shield, really. If you get somebody to interview, great.
The worst thing that you can do is not respond at all. It's just like a Google review, right? Like when you go on and you see like all these positive reviews, and then you see the response from the owner of that business, and then you have that one-star review and there was no response. That person like just completely tore up your business in the reviews, gave it a 1 star, said it was terrible. That person might not even be real, but you not responding to that review is even worse than them putting the review in the first place. I almost always respond to negative feedback. It's necessary. People need to know how you're going to respond when somebody doesn't agree with what you have to say, or somebody had a bad experience with your business, which I think happens to just about everybody. It's not what happened. It's about how are you going to respond to that situation as it comes.
Can I share a tip?
Go ahead.
For Garrett,
Go ahead.
just that this is a life experience thing that we're patient from the time of your family, right? Because don't fail your wish test, right? It's like it conditions us from a very young age to not try, and we could fail at it. I have failed at so many things, and
Cheryl, I'm just going to go ahead and stop. You're going through the matrix right now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like a language encryptor. That's what it sounds like. We can't really make out what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was us.
No, same thing was happening.
I think there's some bandwidth issues there right now.
Internet challenge. Can
We'll
you hear us okay?
Yep.
So maybe Garrett can go, and then when it catches up, Cheryl can jump back in because she's still frozen.
Yeah, I totally want to hear that. I hope she comes back. And she's in the chat. She says she's typing it right now. So I mean, there's that.
Okay.
Basically, like you, Aaron, commented that you don't get a lot of traffic on your posts, or yeah, exactly what he said.
No, I compared it to what Michael said before, where he said he's not getting traffic, he's not getting replies to his posts. But you actually just pointed out how, you know, you're just starting out and you've already done something to quote unquote upset someone, right? Well, that's a reaction. It's take it for what it's worth, but it's everyone kind of wants that. They don't necessarily want people to be upset, but they want someone to feel something from what they put out. So you should be proud.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but I wish I could see more engagement with the stuff that I do post about. I love helping people, and I just want to make sure that they are seeing this stuff and possibly being able to use it. And as a little test for myself to see how many people were actually paying attention to stuff I posted, I did a post on what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Please comment. And I got a lot more traffic than I thought I would get, and that surprised me. So I'm like, okay, so there are people that do read what I post. So that kind of like, okay, that's cool. I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been tracking my stories as well, and there's pretty much a new person every day. Every time I have a story, there's like this core 20 or 25 people, and then there's usually like 2 or 3. I didn't expect them to watch it, but they did. People are definitely watching.
Yeah. And Garrett, I'll jump right in here quick, and then I want to get Cheryl in to say what she wanted to say. Your discovery in the ice cream question, that I believe applies to what you're putting out financially. And I don't know, I haven't seen all of your posts, but one thing is, if you want to get reaction, if you're trying to encourage comments, always pose a question in the content that you're putting out. Doesn't always need to be put as a statement, but it could be more so of a question that invites somebody to share their opinion. The one thing about content marketing is people love to have their voices heard. And with anything, like if you want your voice to be heard, you have to actually become known for the person that is a good listener. So somebody that is really good at listening to what other people have to say, and facilitates that environment, a safe space where people can do that. So that would be one encouragement I would give with your post, is to pose questions. And in a way, like, you don't always have to go, like, sometimes it's the things that you don't think about that lead to the conversations that you actually want to have with people. Sometimes, and especially in a financial space, like, it's a really touchy thing, right? Like, some people they're just not ready to go there, like, right away, right into it. But if there's levels to it, right? So if you use something that is a good gateway, that it's like, oh yeah, like, I really want to engage with this. Like, this is something that's light, something that can then lead you to those deeper conversations that you want to have.